all, it is Nikki. Welcome back to the channel and happy first week of NaNoWriMo. So as I'm filming this video, it is actually the first day of NaNoWriMo, November 1st. How am I feeling about today? Well, I spent a good chunk of yesterday afternoon and night sort of tightening up my outline, filling in those last holes that I had. And I make that sound like I just had a few little holes to fill in. No, it was a pretty decent chunk of story that I did not know about until last night. To be honest, that does make me a little bit nervous just because normally I like to sit on stories for a bit, even as I'm outlining them sort of in my head. I'm ruminating on things, ideas are percolating in there. I can weed out the ones I really like versus the ones that I'm kind of meh about. So it makes me a little bit nervous / apprehensive that the outline I'm going into this month with was just sort of wrapped up yesterday. That said, I am relatively happy with the shape of the events and of the story points that I have now in my outline. The only thing that is still a little bit loose that I haven't quite figured out yet are some of those things that I've discussed in past videos, like my tense, for example, which sounds super fundamental, but I'm gonna sort of experiment today when I start my writing, see what feels good, I'll move forward with that, and if worst comes to worst, I can make the switch partway through and do all my editing after to make sure it's all consistent and in one tense. I am a little bit unsure as to whether I want to do it in present tense or in past tense. Past tense is more standard for genre fiction, but because of my love of literary fiction, I really do want to try it in present. I guess I'll just have to see what feels more natural. Incidentally, and I do not believe that this is a coincidence because I don't believe in coincidence, God's timing is always perfect. This weekend, I decided to just dedicate to wrapping up some of the important details that I needed to know to start on November 1st. And some of those things were who was telling the story, my voice, things like that. And this weekend, I have been reading through this book, Jack Hodgin's A Passion for Narrative. I needed to read it for school. I've been working through it over the past semester, and this weekend, Saturday, Friday, when I'm trying to figure these things out in my story, I reached, say, the voice or point of view chapter in this book, and it was so helpful. I need to sort of acknowledge the fact that I have had writing craft books recommended to me before. I've heard great things about, is it Save the Cat? But I haven't really read any of them, and I hope that's not a huge crime as far as being a writer goes. I probably will get to them eventually, but something has always kind of held me back, and I think in part it's that fear of this sort of formulaic, rigid approach to story writing that will just sap all the fun out of story writing and make me feel like everything I've written up to this point is illegitimate because it didn't follow that model. That is unrealistic and not true. So go read Save the Cat because I've heard that it's super, super helpful. If you're looking for maybe another book to read or a different book that's not Save the Cat or some of the other ones out there, I actually really would recommend this book by Jack Hodgin. It's very organized. I really like the way that it's sort of set up. I found that very helpful just for me and the way that I think, but also it's not necessarily absolute. The way it's written, it doesn't make you feel oh, well, I need to do this or my story will fail. Or if I've done, this method up to this point, then that means my story is, a total flop or it's not a real story or whatever. And also because it's more focused on literary fiction, there's a little more room for freedom and for tweaking and pushing and pulling some of those things that we just sort of take for granted in genre fiction. Genre fiction tends to be more standardized in things like tense or even point of view, whereas with literary fiction, people really do play with those kinds of things. So this book I thought was really great because it doesn't restrict in those areas. It leaves you freedom to sort of think about how you could do some of those things differently, which is something that I'm really very interested in. So if you like literary fiction and you kind of want to take your writing in maybe a semi-literary direction, I would just highly recommend this book. It has been very eye-opening for me. I've realized that writing craft books do not need to be scary. They can be very helpful, and they don't necessarily leave you feeling icky at the end. I finished this book feeling okay, I've learned lots of good stuff, but I don't feel discouraged or I'm a failure as a writer. So that I thought was a really cool little God hug to get me set up for NaNoWriMo because up to this week I was feeling a little bit discouraged. I just wasn't sure if I was going to be ready or if I'd even be able to start today, and I really want to start today, but I think I can. My beginning is solid enough that I can start writing, and my outline is solid enough that I have a clear direction for the story. I think I'm just going to have to focus on sort of not getting stuck in my outline and letting the story kind of speak for itself. Trying to find a quote in this book. Ah, yes. Listening. That's what it took. Not listening to characters themselves as though they could stand up and give me orders, but listening to what the story was trying to tell me as it revealed itself in words. I think this is very important with myself. I find that, if I make a really solid outline, I might feel like I can't stray from that outline and that I'm the one that's just dictating everything that's going to happen. And it reminded me that you do need to sort of relax and let the story kind of take on a life of its own. The story might take itself in a direction that I wasn't intending for it to take, and that one might be better. I know for my fantasy project, my original sort of theme for the story was fairly generic. It was about like purpose. When I really sort of gave this next draft its head, there was this whole new message that emerged that was very timely for me, and I think is a lot more nuanced. It's all about sort of taking God's instructions as He gives them to us, not with the full picture, but just in the little bits and pieces that He gives us at a time, and running with that, being content with what we're given and doing the right thing with it. So that's just an example of how this can happen when you sort of let the story do its thing. You let the story take on a life of its own, and you're listening to what the story is trying to tell you instead of just trying to enforce your outline on the story. I needed to hear that, and I hope that that will help me to write a better story for NaNoWriMo. Maybe that will help you too. So, what are my plans for NaNoWriMo today? I wish that I could just spend the entire day writing. That is my wish. That's what I want for this day, but I mean, don't we all? I do have a lot of school stuff that I need to get done though, so I decided that it probably wasn't best for me to start my day by writing, because if I start, then I might never stop and then I'll never get to the other things that I need to do. But here is my plan, loosely for the month going forward. I think I'm going to do my NaNoWriting in the evening. That is when the house kind of gets the most quiet. I usually like to write at night. Night is when I get the most energy, so that makes the most sense for me too. Because it's NaNoWriMo and it's just a beautiful fall day, I do want to do some writing during the day while it's sunny and gorgeous outside. And so I'm going to try to be uber productive in the morning so that I can do that. Let's see how it goes. Okay, all, here is the plan. I would really like to do some writing outside just because it's such a beautiful day that I don't want to waste this day. I mean, come on. Blue skies like that in November, got to appreciate it, savor it, because it might be the last beautiful day like this we get in a while. So I'm going to try and make this quick because this day is getting on, and also it is very cold in this room. I've got my tea, I've got my candle, I've got my Downton Abbey soundtrack because I'm feeling British vibes for this project. Another quick look at the candles that I made in my last video, Lost Boy, Found Girl, for my two main characters. Ugh, I can't burn them yet because I have to wait another week for them to cure, but it's still inspiring to just look at them, and they still smell like my characters. I have probably around 800 words that I need to write in order to meet today's goal, and I want to set this month off on the right foot by getting my goal on the first day. So, wish me luck. I'll report back when I make it. 2,073 words. We are calling it a day. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had fun. I definitely did. Feel free to like and subscribe if you feel so compelled. And if you're doing NaNoWriMo this month, I hope that your month is super productive, that you had a great first day, that you have a great first week. And even if you're not doing Nano, I just hope your month is full of blessings and words, no matter what. Happy November, everybody. And as always, do not forget to spend some time in the clouds today.